All right, welcome back to TEW Impact for week 1 of June. We are finally getting a little bit closer to Slammiversary. Slammiversary takes place in week 3, so we got a couple shows to go yet, but we are getting there. With the new month, we're gonna have some news, so let's get into it. I don't think we have a whole lot, but again, new month, new, batch of things to talk about. Numbers for before the impact, TV rating as always, 0.01. Overall rating 29, which is down from 30. The TV rating last week was a 0.26, which is down from a 0.29. The overall rating was a 39, which was down from the 46, which I believe, like I mentioned before, was our best impact. I think. And then attendance was 354, up from 345. So a little bit in attendance, but down everywhere else. So last week was kind of a downswing a little bit. I was kind of hoping with more matches, the quality would kind of be up. I did book like 6 matches where I normally book 5. I put that at the bottom where Mike Bailey versus Chris Bay was our number 7 match so far that we booked, and then Swerve versus Swan with one N. That's Swan with 2 N's. Was number 10. So last week's episode, we had 2 of our 10 best matches so far, and a dip in quality. So it doesn't necessarily mean good matches um will equal a good show. Um which we'll see about tonight because I actually booked even more matches. I said how I normally book 5 and I booked 6 last week. I actually booked 7 this week. So I did not. Well, I planned on that, but I wasn't keeping track. I thought I only booked like 5 or 6. So we'll see how that works out for us. But yeah, let's move on to general impact news. With the new month, we got our financials and we made money again. So far we've been making money, which is good. We haven't been making a ton. Um, our profit for May was 87,554, which I believe was I would have to look again. I remember January being around that. This might have beat it. Um, if this isn't our biggest month, then January probably was. April was 63,756. Like I said, regardless, we're not making a ton of money, but we are making money, so that's good. And then as far as our regional battle, we again finished 3 out of 5. So that will mean a 5% loss in attendance for the month. I put in parentheses after that kind of where we stood as far as points. So NXT, like I guess the overall quality between like shows, um, whatever. I kind of have a theory about this. So NXT is at 59, MLW is at 52, Impact is at 47. Well, Impact is us, so we're 47. Shine is at 43, and then NWA is at 40. Um, I kind of kept wondering why and how MLW was ahead of us because I believe they're still considered a tiny promotion, but they have a lot of decent sized stars. But there's crossover between some of our talent, and I think that since Impact is technically bigger, we're a small company, and then MLW is a tiny. Shine is a tiny. I believe NWA is a tiny. Um, their talent is considered stars relative to their size. So, like in MLW or in other, well, MLW we have where they have Davey Richards and Alex Shelley, and we have those talents too. I think they're considered stars in MLW, but not in Impact. Um, Actually, Alex Shelley is actually considered a star for us, but he's like kind of on the um borderline, I guess. But considering we're technically a bigger company, they count as bigger stars in a smaller company like MLW, which explains why Josh Alexander is kind of considered a star in other companies that he works for, but not ours because technically Impact is bigger. So he would have to get more over. I don't know if I'm explaining this right, if this is a theory, if this is a possible theory. He would have to get more over in relative to our size, considering we are bigger than other companies. Technically, we're like the sixth biggest company in the game. But yeah, I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone else. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that right, but basically, that kind of explains why we are lagging because our we need to get our people more over, and they may be over in technically smaller companies, but since ours is, I've said this like 3 times now, so hope that makes sense. I'm not sure if that is even correct, but that's kind of how I'm thinking through things. As we mentioned last week on Impact, Chris Sabin suffered an undisclosed elbow injury. Um, it will take a few weeks to heal, but he can work through it. We don't really plan on having him work through it, and I'm hoping. I tried to look, and it just says like a few weeks, so I couldn't find like an exact timetable. So I'm hoping it'll heal by Slammiversary because Slammiversary is in a few weeks. So um, yeah, hopefully that'll clear itself up by then. So we'll have Sabin probably appearing, not working really many matches till then, hopefully. We have decided to let Shark Boy's contract run out. Our original plan was to re-sign him as a road agent once this contract was up, but when we negotiated, he wasn't interested in being a road agent. He just wanted to be a wrestler. So we just let it run out. But then after his contract run out, he announces his in-ring retirement. So maybe he will become a road agent. Maybe we'll bring him back, but um, yeah. Shark Boy's hiring and his X Division reign was kind of I wouldn't say an accident, but definitely wasn't planned. It was mostly just to extend that whole Trey Miguel, Steve Macklin program. I didn't really have a good idea to end it, so we put in Shark Boy. We gave him his feel good title reign, and uh, yeah. But as for now, he is no longer with us. Maybe further on down the road he will come back. And then speaking on contracts, we have 1 month remaining on Raj Singh's contract. Have not decided if I want to renew it. Um, he was kind of in the same boat as Shera, where we were debating letting his contract run out, and then I ended up booking him in a match that would have taken place after his contract would have run out. So we went ahead and renewed that. So we'll see from there. And then um, body types. Everyone is getting toned again. Hernandez has changed his body type from muscular to toned, and then VSK has also gone from average to toned. So, once again, there is something going on in the Impact gym, wherever that may be, where everyone is just getting toned. So, good for them. News for America. Um, for WWE, Elias and referee Danilo and Fibio extended their exclusive written deals. I had to figure out who Danilo was because his picture in the game, or in the at least the picture pack I'm using, looked like a wrestler um, picture because he was like shirtless and everything. Um, but the name did not sound familiar. Um, Apparently, he's a referee. And then speaking of referees, Eddie Arango, aka Bandito Jr. I think that's his it was his indie name. Was involved in a social media storm, accused of bullying a young fan. So our referees are either getting extensions or getting in trouble. For AEW, Paul White, Mark Quinn, and Brandon Cutler have all extended their handshake deals. MLW's and she extended his handshake deal. NJPW Strong have risen to small size. Um, I'm kind of keeping an eye on NJPW Strong because from what I've seen, they've risen to small size. I hope that works out for them because from what I've seen comparing other promotions, they're actually in like negative money. So I don't know how close they are to being bankrupt, but that is a possibility. But if they're rising to small size, maybe they can turn things around and make more money. But we'll see what happens to them. And then GCW, Ricky Shane Page defeated Nick Gage in a first blood match at The Block is Hot to win the Ultraviolet Championship, which in a hardcore fed, you would think a first blood match would be kind of tame, so um, and kind of quick considering those involved. All right, international news, as in news that is not American. We had American news, now we got everywhere else. New Japan, Gato and Sonata have extended their exclusive written deals. AAA, Phoenix defeated Andrade El Idolo on an episode of Worldwide to win their Latin American Championship, and then the Mega Champion Roosh has gotten ripped. So Roosh is getting ripped, Elias is ripped, Randy Orton's flabby, and everyone in TNA is getting toned. So there's your body guy update. Big Japan, El Lindaman defeated Shinobu to win the Junior Heavyweight Championship, but then in DDT a few days later, Lindemann lost the Extreme Division Championship to Harashima. So you win some, you lose some, literally. And then also in DDT, Kaisuke Ishii and Shockwave, which is Mao Inoue and Shinya Aoki, defeated Danshoku Dano, Yuki Ino, and Yumihito Imanari to win the KOD six-man tag team titles. And then 0-1, they've hired Takuya Nomura, Shota, Masa Kitayama, Masaya Takahashi, Yosuke Watanabe, and Hajime Ohara to handshake deals. I don't know who any of them are, but the fact that 0-1 is going on a hiring spree seems to be relatively good news. I looked them up, and it's a mix of Big Japan and DDT and elsewhere. So, some crossover going on there, but just looks like 0-1 bolstering their ranks. Joshi news. Stardom has hired Mio Shirai, not Io Shirai, but Mio Shirai, her sister, and Tsukushi Haruka to handshake deals. Mio, I looked her up in game. She's not a wrestler anymore. I don't know if she retired. I think she retired in real life, but in the game, I don't know. But she's set as like a referee and a crew member, I think. So she will be working for them there. Tokyo Joshi Pro, Yuki Kamafuku defeated Leon to win the International Princess Championship, which was her second reign, but she had to vacate the title due to an injury suffered in that match, a torn rotator cuff, which will put her out for a few months. So much like Kairi Hojo, a few months ago, winning titles and having to vacate them immediately because they got hurt. Sucks. And also, um, just because this happened and because I'm thinking about it right now, big shout out goes to Mina Shirakawa for Stardom. She didn't win a title, but she got pretty messed up in a match last night. As I'm recording this, she got her face busted open, lost like 3 teeth, and then cut a pretty gnarly post match promo about how you just gotta suck it up. So, yeah, fan of hers. So, thoughts go out to her. Hopefully for a speedy recovery. More retirements and some deaths while we're at it. The retirements keep coming. Like I mentioned last week, I think this is just the game, or at least the game's way of purging older people out of the mod. But, not a huge list, but we'll go through it. Paul White, who, like I mentioned earlier, just extended his handshake deal, but doesn't seem to be planning on wrestling, so he's probably not in any danger of really going anywhere. Jim Ross, Dutch Mantel, Hector Guerrero, Rob Conway, Danny Davis, Iron Sheik, Warlord, Rick Martel, Katarina Waters, C.W. Anderson, Dan Moff, Necro Butcher, Lexi Five, Ian Rotten, John Zandig. So lots of ultraviolet legends on their way out. Shaggy Two Dope, Kevin Kleinrock, Sarah Stock. Sarah debated bringing her in. I still might. Probably will bring her in as another female road agent. We could use some of them. I think depends. I'm pretty sure she's only retiring from in ring, so if she sticks around, maybe we will still bring her in as a road agent. Rob Van Dam, Mr. Gauske, Carrie Silkin, Steve Kieran, Shark Boy. Like I mentioned earlier, his contract ran out and then he retired. Larry Zabisco, Kendo Kashin, Cassandro, Johnny Devine, Men's Teo, Vito Lagrasso, The Sandman, Apollo, Ron Harris, Sojo Bolt, Kevin Fertig, aka Mordecai, aka Kevin Thorne, Sonny Ono, Scott Fick, Randy Robinson. I forgot this mod put Randy the Ram Robinson in the game as an actual wrestler, so he's retired. Uh, Probably the best thing for him. Becky Bayless, Dave Lagana, and Joe Koff. Officially gone, Johnny Fabulous, aka John Cena's dad, and Nick Khan. Like I mentioned, it's probably a month ago now. I think they only had a 1 month uh, wait before they retired, so they are done with the business. And then deaths, 911 from ECW. Um, I don't remember what his real name was. He was listed as his real name, and I had to look him up because his picture looked familiar, and it was 911. So, rest in peace, 911. And then before the impact, we start off with a Danhausen promo. I don't think I'm gonna do the voice because my voice is kind of raw right now. But he goes on. He's talking about winning his match, defeating Goofy Steve, aka Crazy Steve. But since his bit is mispronouncing wrestlers, it's Goofy Steve to him, and basically plans on taking over Impact and winning a bunch of money. So Danhausen on the right start. Speaking of on the right track, Mance Warner continuing his streak, defeating Ba. This match had botched interference from Caleb with a K. So their story is that um, Caleb and Larry with a D. Larry is full on board with Caleb's makeover of him and his um, strategy, his social media strategy of getting him over and Falaba less so. So this may drive a wedge between them. We will see. After that, Quinn McKay challenges Killer Kelly, not Gia Miller. She's interviewed by Gia Miller. I had to put that correction in there because I messed up the booking. But Quinn McKay, after coming back last week and attacking Killer Kelly, not only challenges her to a match next week on Before the Impact, but a submission match. And considering that Killer Kelly has tapped everyone out that she's faced so far, and Quinn being fairly I wouldn't say unproven, but this might be a mismatch. And Gia insinuates as such. So, and then after that, we get a segment setting up a match for Impact, where Jordan Grace goes to Gail Kim and says she wants a match with Tasha Steelz, but she wants to make sure it's one on one. She doesn't want her running away. She doesn't want interference from Savannah Evans or Janai Kai. And Gail mentions that with the next match coming up for Before the Impact, she doesn't think she'll have to worry about interference from either one because in that match, Zhao Zia defeating Janai Kai. It says MMA rules match. I did it both more as like a martial arts exhibition since they're both martial artists. I have Zia knocking out Kai. Well, not knocking her out, but knocking her down and unable to answer a 10 count. So Zhao wins. After the match, Savannah Evans comes in, helps Janai Kai out. You kind of get the sense that Evans wants to run in and attack Zhao, but she's more focused on getting Janai to the back because she is obviously wobbly and woozy, probably been kicked in the head. So that's how Before the Impact ends. Overall rating of 29. And then we will go into Impact. All right, we start off Impact with a match made last week. Brian Myers versus Laredo Kid, a battle of the so-called coaches. Even though I wouldn't really consider Laredo Kid a coach to the MMA or not the MMA, the AAA contingent. Um, but kind of just their de facto leader by seniority, I guess. Time served in Impact, but in somewhat of an upset, Laredo Kid gets a flash roll up on Brian Myers, pins him out of nowhere in 7 minutes 57 seconds. Myers is in shock, considering himself the veteran. He uh, is shocked that he could not keep up with the lucha ways, the speed of Laredo Kid. And Laredo Kid gets a win, segment rating of 39. After the match backstage, we basically just already see Rich Swann and Willie Mack brawling and having to be pulled apart. It doesn't last long. Rich Swann, of course, mad at Willie Mack for costing him the X Division title match last week against Swerve. Willie Mack, of course, mad at Swann for everything he's done in the last couple weeks and just being a general dick. Segment rating of 27. And then we get the match mentioned on Before the Impact, Jordan Grace versus Tasha Steelz. Jordan pins Tasha Steelz in 8 minutes 16 seconds. A lot of that match spent Tasha killing time, trying to run away, but knowing that, she has nowhere to go and no real backup because um her well, at least Janai Kai is probably still suffering from, whatever issues she took in that match. And then Evans might be, sitting this one out. Um, but yeah, it's just them one on one, and Jordan goes over clean. Segment rating of 34. We get a promo from Jake Something. Jake Something on somewhat of a high from finally, well, I wouldn't say finally because he did pin W. Morrissey in a tag match a while ago, but people considered that a fluke. W. Morrissey considered that a fluke. Um, but just something new deep down that he can beat him when it mattered. He couldn't beat him at Under Siege, I believe, in the Falls Count Anywhere match. But once and for all, when it really mattered, he did it. He beat him in the Last Man Standing match, and he did it for all his fans, did it for himself, did it for Impact, and he knows that Impact is where he wants to be and make a name for himself, and all that stuff. So typical babyface promo for him, and a celebration of sorts, and a segment rating of 34. We get Ace Austin versus Johnny Swinger. That ends up in a draw due to copious amounts of interference. It only lasts almost 6 minutes. Um, well, I have Zicky running in and attacking Austin, Fulton running in and attacking Swinger. I kind of envisioned that the other way around, where it was maybe Fulton first and then Zicky coming in to back up his guy. But either way, the ref just throws it out. Double DQ. We get a big brawl in the middle of the ring. Hernandez eventually comes out. Johnny Bravo is doing good work at ringside, but he's basically running around with like a chicken with his head cut off. Segment rating of 34. While that that brawl continues, Gail Kim walks out and she commands everyone to stop what they're doing, get control of themselves. She looks to Austin and she's like, Austin, you like to gamble, huh? Swinger, you got casino, you like to gamble. All of you, you've just been gambling with your careers these past couple weeks. Well, I've got something for you. Because at Slammiversary, I'm bringing back the ultimate gamble. I'm bringing back Feast or Fired. It's going to be 20 competitors, 4 briefcases. 3 of those briefcases include a shot, one with the world title, one with the X title, one with the tag team titles, and one briefcase contains a pink slip. Someone will be fired in that match. Um, like she said, the ultimate gamble. Um, and a staple in Impact history. And all 5 men are the first 5 competitors out of 20. So Ace Austin, Madman Fulton, Johnny Swinger, Zicky Dice, and Hernandez will hopefully get things settled out at Slammiversary in Feast or Fired. Maybe someone will walk away with the title shot. Someone's walking away without a job. Will it be one of these 5 men? We will see at Slammiversary. Segment rating of 25. Then we get a, not necessarily promo, but we see the tag team title, the tag team champions, Motor City Machine Guns, hanging out backstage. They talk about their match last week. Shelley's kind of heated because Sabin got injured last week. Sabin's like, don't worry about it. It's fine. I can work through it. It's not that big a deal. Don't get mad. Let's just move on. We got Slammiversary, and Alex Shelley's like, damn right, we got Slammiversary, and you're injured. And Saban's like, I'm not injured. It's not that big a deal. It's like, well, the point is, we can't have, you know, one half of the tag team champions going into Slammiversary injured. So I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna go out to the ring, and I'm gonna teach that punk kid Trey Miguel a lesson right now. And Saban's just like, come on, just leave the kid alone. You know, it's not that bad. And Shelley's just not having any of it, but he's going out to the ring. He wants a match, and we will get that match next. Segment rating of 50 for the promo. In the resulting match, Alex Shelley defeating Trey Miguel does what he set out to do. Taps out Trey Miguel with the Border City stretch. Fairly straightforward. Set it as a high spots match. Segment rating of 45. Alex Shelley with a 51, showing why he's possibly our biggest star right now. We're trying to get other people up to that level, but Alex Shelley getting somewhat a measure of revenge for Trey Miguel supposedly injuring Chris Sabin last week, even though Chris Sabin is fine and does not think it's that big a deal. Then we get Gail Kim walking backstage after having just made that Feast or Fired announcement a few segments ago. She's walking and she bumps into Jonathan Gresham, and Gail's like, "Oh, Jonathan, I'm glad I, found you. I've been meaning to talk to you all day. I know, you know, things haven't been that great for you in Impact here, but congratulations on the your victory last week over Dalton Castle." And she hopes that Gresham continues to win and considers him one of the best technical wrestlers in the business currently today. So she hopes that he can use that technical expertise on her Lethal Lockdown team for Slammiversary. She's like, I know, you know, your Impact career so far hasn't been the greatest, but I think, with time and, having something bigger to fight for with Ring of Honor gone, you'll consider my invitation and accept the invitation to join my team for Lethal Lockdown. And Gresham thinks about it a little bit, and he's just like, I appreciate it, but you're right. You know, Impact. My time here on Impact hasn't been how I would like, and Ring of Honor's always been my home. I don't really consider Impact my home yet. I don't know if I can justify fighting for it. And she's just like, I'm sorry. I this just doesn't feel right to me. I gotta turn you down. And he just kind of walks away. Gail's left, bummed out, but somewhat understanding. So Gresham, despite getting the win last week, not completely back to his, I wouldn't say his jolly self, but not back into the groove, and definitely not considering himself a part of Impact proper, especially the team Impact that will be going into Lethal Lockdown at Slammiversary to determine who fully owns Impact at the end of it. Segment rating of 40. Get another match made last week, this time by Maria, of all people, who intends on owning Impact, but she made the match of Chelsea Green versus Rosemary for the Digital Media Championship, where if Rosemary wins, Maria, or if Rosemary wins, then Deanna will consider, or Maria will consider giving Rosemary a title shot at Deanna's Knockouts title. But that does not happen this week because Chelsea Green, thanks to the help of her BFF and the Knockouts champion, Deanna Prazo, defeats Rosemary. Chelsea Green defends the title. Chelsea Green and Rosemary do not seem to click, so it made for an awkward bout. The storyline lost heat. Rosemary Chelsea Green not doing too great. Also she is still somewhat annoyed, even though we gave her a raise. But regardless of all that, she is still the digital media champion, and Rosemary's chances at facing Deonna Purrazzo seem to be out of grasp once again. Segment rating of 27. And then after the match, we get basically Deonna comes in, joins Chelsea in beating up Rosemary until, of all people, Zhao, fresh off her match from before the impact, runs in, clears out the ring, helps Rosemary to her feet. The BFFs back off. They don't want anything to do with Zhao and her martial arts expertise. But before they can make it back to the back, Gail Kim comes out once again, and she's like, I don't know what that last match was all about. I know Maria made it. The stipulation was up to her, but until unless Maria can win Lethal Lockdown at Slammiversary, she doesn't own Impact yet. I still run Impact, and I'm making a match for next week. I am possibly rewarding Rosemary after that obvious setup that just took place, and possibly rewarding Xiao Xia for her recent performance and stepping up. She has stepped up. She, defeated Tennille Dashwood in her debut match. She has stepped up to the side of Jordan Grace and Masha Slamovich and fighting Tasha Steelz and her crew. And now she has stepped up to defend Rosemary. I admire that, and I will reward that behavior as such. So, what I'm going to do, I'm booking a match next week for Impact. Gail Kim, oh my God, I'm reading the list off. Deonna Purrazzo and Chelsea Green tagging against Rosemary and Xiao Xia. If the team of Rosemary and Xiao can win, they will receive title shots. Rosemary will receive a title shot at Slammiversary for the Knockouts title. Xiao Xia will receive a title shot against Chelsea Green for the Digital Media Championship at Slammiversary. If they can't win, then Deonna and Chelsea, they can take Slammiversary off for all she cares. She's got bigger things to worry about. But she wants to reward Rosemary and reward Xiao Xia, possibly if they can defeat Deonna and Chelsea next week on Impact. Segment rating of 32. We've gained heat back with this segment, so that's good. Then backstage, we get Mike Bailey and Chris Bay. They're arguing back and forth. It's not super heated, but they're basically making their case about how either one of them should have won last week's match where they went to a draw, to a double count out. In game is double count out. I wanted it to be a time limit draw, but considering them somewhat evenly matched, but they say, well, I could have beat you here. No, I could have beat you here. I should be, you know, I should be beating you. I could have beat you. Could have done this. Could have done that. And Swerve walks by. Swerve, the X Division champion, walks by, hearing this. He kind of looks at it, lets it play out a little bit more. And eventually they stop. They see that he's watching, and he's just like, okay, you know, I know you two wanted a title shot. You guys had that match last week to prove who would be the next step up to me in the X Division title. I respect that. You guys had a hell of a match last week, and you're both right. Either one of you could have won at any time, but you guys don't need to argue. Because at Slammiversary, I'm willing to take you both on at the same time and prove that Impact is Swerve's house. And the X Division is also Swerve's house. But yeah, Swerve dropping a bombshell that he is willing to defend the X Division title against both Mike Bailey and Chris Bay in a three-way match. And then he walks away. Bailey and Bay are just kind of like, well, I guess that settles that. And then it just kind of dispersed too. So both men getting what they wanted, which is an X Division title shot at Slammiversary. Segment rating of 39. I got a few segments before I got to plug in my battery. We get another match. Shit. Reading the uh bottom again. But Joe Doering versus Damian O'Connor in a match made last week. Joe Doering laid out the challenge that if he can beat Damian O'Connor, he gets a match at Slammiversary against former running buddy Eric Young at Slammiversary. He does so. Joe Doering defeats Damian O'Connor with a Revolution Bomb, but suffers a strained rotator cuff in the process. So we don't know how bad that'll do. If he will be, if that match at Slammiversary will take place. Segment rating of 36. Joe Doering used subtle mannerisms to hint at a future face turn. Wink, wink. And then Damian O'Connor is getting better at his gimmick. Joe, I assume because of getting injured in that match, his in-ring performance did not do very well compared to Damian O'Connor. And then after the match, yes, thank you, Rhino. Eric Young comes to the ring. He was at, well, ringside the entire time. But they, after the match, instead of Joe Doering celebrating his potential Slammiversary match against Eric Young, the two swarm Doering and lay him out, as, was probably their original plan. They leave Joe Doering laid out. This is officially his face turn. I wanted him to uh, turn face during the match with interference from, or at least botched interference from Joe or from Eric Young. But considering Eric Young is still technically injured, he couldn't participate in the match. So I had to do this post match program to turn him. Let's cross our fingers and hope it doesn't screw him up. Turn was a success. That's good. So we waited a few weeks, let him, hint at a face turn. Never really turned him face. And he is not going to suffer any morale drops because of a bad turn. But I guess it's a good news, bad news thing, because the good news is um during the next 2 weeks um is booked for Japan. So we won't be able to use him anyway in the lead up to Slammiversary. But with that rotator cuff, hopefully we will be back in time for Slammiversary. Otherwise, we will have to. This turn segment was also kind of designed to write Doering off for the next couple weeks since we can't use him anyway till Slammiversary. I was going to say he will be there for Slammiversary. He's not booked in Japan, but will he still be injured? I guess we'll find out. Yeah, segment rating of 33. Then we get a segment with W. Morrissey. He heard earlier what Jake something had to say, and he's just sick of it. He's sick of losing to these young punks. He's the biggest star in Impact, literally and figuratively. He's not being treated as such. He's been having to slum it with the likes of Jake something, losing to him in tag matches, losing to him in a last man standing match, and he's sick of it, and he's ready to walk out until Maria Kanellis interrupts his speech. And Maria, much like Steve Macklin a couple weeks ago, says she agrees with all of his complaints. Morrissey should be the biggest star in Impact, and he will be treated as such if he joins her crew and joins their lethal lockdown match. Uh, Morrissey does not give an answer tonight, but he definitely seems open to it. And he's definitely rearing mad to go. He was considering just walking out on Impact altogether tonight, but if he can have the chance to stick it to Impact, let Maria run the company, and hopefully give him a high profile spot, the spot that he thinks he deserves, he seems like he could be okay with it, but he does not give an answer this week. So, segment rating of 41. All right, we get a promo with the Wolves. Another promo. But this time, instead of talking about how they dispatched of the Gospel of Violence the week before in a cage match, they cut a promo about their future. And of course, the tag team titles are in their sights, but before they can go towards that, they have one more roadblock they have to take care of. It might be a mental roadblock, but it's a roadblock there nonetheless that they have to blow apart because they lay out a challenge to the Good Brothers. Eddie reminds everyone that the Good Brothers started all this. You know, the Good Brothers were the reason that Eddie went out, got Davey back into the fold, got the band back together again, got the Wolves back together, and hopefully cementing their legacy as the greatest tag team in Impact history. But in their minds, they can't do that until the Good Brothers have been defeated. So they lay out the challenge, and they lay out the challenge for next week. The Wolves versus the Good Brothers, finally. You know, we've got it a few months ago. Could have had it again at uh the finals, or the if they would have won, if Davey had not gotten injured, they could have won the uh tag team tournament and faced them once again. But in their minds, until they beat the Good Brothers, they can't call themselves the best team in Impact history and consider themselves one of the best teams going today. So, challenge is laid out. We got the match next week. Good Brothers versus the Wolves. Segment rating of 40. I don't know why that lost heat for this segment, but that's probably our best storyline, so I don't imagine it losing lots of heat. And then we get our championship Impact World title match, Josh Alexander versus PCO. We get a hell of a match. I set the Doering versus Damien match as a wild brawl. This one was, I think, a storytelling because after 13 or so minutes, after a hell of a match, PCO, of course, being his crazy self, puts his own body on the line if it will mean injuring Josh Alexander. He will take the possibility of injuring himself. After a hell of a match, it ends in a countout. PCO wins. He does not win the title, but the post match shenanigans. Well, the reason Josh Alexander was counted out because of all people, Scott D'Amore ran out and started yelling at Josh to come to the back and follow him. We haven't seen Scott D'Amore for months. We thought he was out of the company. His position of basically running Impact had been dissolved, given to Gail Kim. Um, so yeah, basically Scott D'Amore should not be here. And he ran out from the back. He didn't run out from the entrance. He ran out from somewhere from the back. He tried to get Josh Alexander's attention for whatever reason, waving him down. And Josh is like, "What the hell are you doing here? What the hell's going on?" And D'Amore's like, "You got to come with me. You got to come with me. It's emergency. Can't explain. We got to go. We got to go." Alexander's, obviously in the middle of a match, in the middle of a title defense, and you hear D'Amore mention something about, "It's your wife. It's your wife. We got to go. We got to go now." And that's all Alexander needs to hear. Alexander bolts. He gets counted out by the ref, sensing that there's something wrong. The ref doesn't even really count out and count to 10. He just basically gives the match to PCO. Of course, the title cannot change hands on a countout, so Alexander remains champion. We follow, segment rating of 40. Alexander's getting better at his gimmick. PCO had an in-ring performance 27, which is kind of disappointing, but Alexander did well, and storyline is advancing. We had another contender to the Impact World title, but this match has not ended the way really anyone would have liked. A cameraman follows Josh and Scott D'Amore to the back. Alexander's like, "I gotta get my things," and Scott's like, "There's no time. There's no time. It's your wife. We gotta go. Gotta go. I'll drive you there. We'll come. I'll have someone come get your stuff. We gotta go." It's like, "We gotta go," and they leave the building. They get out to the parking lot, and Alexander is bum rushed. He's like body checked into, like, the second they get out in the door into the parking lot, he's body checked by some big just mass. Body checked like right into like a nearby uh uh trailer, like big truck trailer, 18-wheeler trailer. So Alexander's running out. He runs out to the door. He's body checked into the trailer, having just been body checked and having just gone 13 minutes with PCO. Of course, he's been injured. Not well injured, but weakened. And now this body mass check from a massive man happens. Alexander is laid out. The cameraman pans up, sees Scott D'Amore standing over him. The camera pans over, sees the mass of the body, the giant body mass that chucked Josh Alexander into the side of a tractor trailer. Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe, the NXT champion, the WWE 24/7 champion, is an Impact once again. Well, is he an Impact? He's out in the parking lot. He's not in the building. Uh, but he was the giant mass that body checked Josh Alexander into the side of a tractor trailer. They stand over him. Eventually, security comes out. They surround Josh Alexander. Josh Alexander slowly comes to his wits and is just trying to figure out what's going on, but so is everyone else. Samoa Joe and Scott D'Amore are standing over him. Eventually, they walk off. They back off. They walk off together. Josh Alexander is wondering what the hell's going on. 1 second he's running out, thinking something's wrong with his wife, and the next second he's bum rushed by Samoa Joe, of all people. Segment rating of 50. Samoa Joe debuted his gimmick. He's got an initial rating of adequate. Uh, Gained heat for this. Recap gimmick changes. Will be penalized for stuff, but yeah. Samoa Joe, of all people, has returned to Impact. What does this mean? What does this mean for everyone? What does this mean for Impact? Why has he attacked Josh Alexander? Does he want a title shot of all things? Can he even get a title shot? He's an employee. He's a WWE champion. He's the NXT champion. He's the 24/7 champion. Scott D'Amore technically isn't even an employee. He doesn't work here. Technically, wink. Uh, he's the NXT booker. He's been on NXT TV. He's been on NXT pay-per-views. What's the deal? Why did did Scott D'Amore bring Samoa Joe to Impact? Did Samoa Joe want to come to Impact and is using Scott D'Amore to get here? Who knows? But I know, but I won't tell you because that's the point of episodic entertainment. We got a 44 rating for this episode of Impact, which is obviously an increase from before, but I don't think it hit the high that a couple weeks ago did. But we got, you know, good promos, 50 promos, well, 50 promo from the Machine Guns, Josh Alexander, and the Samoa Joe segment. Got a 50. PCO versus Josh Alexander got a 40. Alex Shelley versus Trey Miguel got a 45. So, again, maybe our matches didn't white overall do a whole lot, but our angles are carrying the load, I guess. So, doesn't matter if you have great matches, as long as you have great angles, you'll have a great show. I don't know if the message that I want to send. But before I end the show, I want to see how bad Joe Doering got injured. So we'll be back. Joe Doering, strained rotator cuff, much like Chris Sabin's elbow injury. Not as bad as we had hoped. He can still perform, but like I mentioned, we can't even really use him the next 2 weeks anyway because he has Japan bookings. However, I hope he doesn't get further injured in Japan, but our biggest fears, the fear that he would not be able to work Slammiversary, is not a fear at all. Unless he gets injured worse in Japan, then we're screwed. But Joe Doering, not as bad off as we would have thought. Hopefully, still a contender for Slammiversary match. Yeah. Thanks for watching.